All right, everyone, welcome back into another fantasy golf video. Have a two-part series here for you guys. For this video, we're going to start off with the top pool picks for the PGA Championship. Now, yes, I was asked a lot in comments whether or not I was going to be doing this video, so I figured I might as well do that video. Enough people commented on it, so shout out to you guys. But then we're going to go ahead and jump on into the lineup builder portion of this video. Well, I'll go ahead and break down which players are coming in maybe a little bit overvalued or undervalued. I think that could actually be a big point of contention in regards to which lineups actually end up being very profitable or maybe are going to be left in the dust. And then we're going to go ahead and break down some of my favorite bets for the weeks, guys. So outright bets, prize picks, prop bets, and stuff like that. So with that, let's go ahead and jump on in to this video. So guys, starting out with the pool picks, again, this is like for office, whether you're playing against your spouse or significant other, anything like that, your friends, your family. We're going to go ahead and give you guys the best picks for each tier and really the logic behind why we're going with those picks. As always, we have 6 tiers that we're choosing from. Basically, they're broken down by world ranking for the most part. And so we're going to start off here with tier number 1. So guys, as always, what we're going to be looking at are going to be the top golfers for each tier. How that's going to be broken down is by taking a peek at the model ranking, which is based off of the 9 to 5 model, which is my fantasy golf website. And so the way we come up with like the top players is by taking a peek at all the unique characteristics for that week's tournament. So we'll take a peek at course history. This year, it's a little bit different because they're not playing at the same course or course that we've seen a lot recently. So we're looking at comparable courses that are somewhat the same as this track, and trying to see if we can find any data points where they line up that might tell us that a golfer is going to produce some good results in this course based also of some other similar courses. What we're really looking at, though, is going to be the key stats. We're going to be taking a peek at which are the top stats for this tournament that could lead to predictability and results. We're looking at that. Then we're looking at recent form. Probably the most important stat this week because it is a course that we don't typically see on the PGA Tour. We're looking at recent form, and then we're kind of combining all of those data points into the model ranking. Now, we are including like make cut percentage and outright odds as well into that, but that's what's going into this data. Now, what I think we are mostly going to be looking at is really 2 golfers out of the top tier. And really, I think it comes down to Rory and Scotty. Okay, so Rory is someone that's not going to naturally grade out all too well in the 9 to 5 model always, because he's someone that, let's just put it this way, when he's not mentally locked into an event, he's not going to bring his A game for the most part, where like Scotty typically would. And then you also have someone like Cameron Young, who's been playing extremely good golf as well. I could argue you could get to Cameron Young. He probably won't be as popular of a selection for more casual golf fans. So if you guys are playing in a very competitive pool, but it's with more casual players, like if you're in an office pool, Cameron Young is actually the pick that makes the most sense because you can gain some leverage on everyone else. But also, I think we should mostly just be trying to keep it simple. I think we should be going with Scotty or Rory. Rory has been quoted in interviews basically saying that he's played this course a bunch the previous week in competitive rounds in there. And so that does seem like a distinct advantage for him. And he does seem like someone that's trying to get going for majors. That's what he cares about now. It's just winning majors. Okay, obviously with this being a major, I would expect him to play well. If you guys think Rory has a little bit more name value for the people that you're playing against, maybe go Scotty, and also vice versa. If everyone loves Scotty, then you're going to go Rory. It's pretty much as simple as that. If you guys want to get a little bit different, you can go with Cameron Young, but it really just ends up being go Scotty or Rory. And then we go ahead and jump on into tier number 2. Now, tier number 2 is much more of a toss-up to me. I do think the top 2 players here are the 2 that we want to get to the most. That being said, I do think we could see some kind of random results here, specifically Brooks Koepka. Like, he's someone data-wise is terrible this week, but those are typically the events leading into it, especially into a major where he ends up going off and playing extremely well. He might have been looking ahead for this major. This is a course that typically would fit his game as well. I worry that he's going to have a little bit more name value than game value this week, though, so maybe stay away from him. The top 2 plays are Hatton and Cantlay. So the issue with Hatton is he's someone that plays on live, so the only data points that we have coming in are going to be from PGA Tour results. And we see his outright odds. He's at 18th most likely to win this week. He does have the second best odds, though, to make the cut, so that's worth noting. But really, we're going to see Patrick Cantlay probably just the best choice. 14th in the 9 to 5 mile, top 10 in outright odds, and then has the best chance to end up making the cut. And it's worth calling out, guys, his comp course history has a second place, also a miscut at the PGA Championship last year. Don't love that. And then a 32nd place finish at one of the other comp courses. Okay, so that's okay. Stat fit, not the best, only 17th best in the field, so a little bit worrisome. But the recent form has been solid. 5 straight make cuts for him. We see 4 straight finishes, a top 12 or better. So obviously we're getting him in some pretty good form. So I think he's kind of the simple, safe click there as well. If you want to chase more upside, I guess you could go Brooks Koepka, who has the 14th best odds to win. But if you're chasing upside, Siwoo Kim's also someone that makes a lot of sense. Siwoo Kim is someone that if we look at his recent form, guys, it can be pretty hit or miss, but when he hits, he's finishing top 10 or so. And so it really depends on your construction of the office pool. If it's like 4 out of 6 players only count, I think it makes sense to maybe chase something like Siwoo Kim. But at the same time, again, Patrick Hanley is playing some simple golf. I think we just keep it simple and go with him. And then from there is where we get a little bit more interesting for tier number 3. Tier number 3, I do think Chris Goddard, to me, is kind of the clear-cut choice here. Pretty strong odds to win. That being said, you do see someone like Mingwoo Lee popping up in there with the 12th best odds to win. That seems a little rich to me, but I could see it potentially. And I really actually like Adam Scott, although I do want to call out this tier. I want to highlight it to you guys because I want to show you guys that by looking at it from the DFS salary, which if you guys aren't familiar, Daily Fantasy Sports DraftKings, they kind of do their own tiering contests each and every week where you have to pick 6 golfers and stay within a certain salary constraint. And so I think it's worth calling out this because like Hideki is the highest priced player for DFS. Now the outright odds are always changing. Okay. So like it is important to call that out. Again, Mingwoo Lee is the player that has some of the better odds to win this week, but look at his price. Like I think that's interesting. So the reason I'm calling this out is because Mingwoo Lee sure has a pretty good ceiling. He is a phenomenal stat fit, guys. He is, and he's someone that when his game is on can really pop and finish well. Adam Scott though, to me would be the better choice if you're chasing someone like that. But at the same time, just given all the information and data points that we have coming in, I kind of think we just go with Chris Goddard. Okay, Chris Goddard is someone that actually has somewhat local ties here. One of the few golfers that's kind of from this region. He's made 7 straight cuts on the PGA Tour. Pretty good stat fit, top 20 stat fit, top 20 specialist. Specialist is taking a peek at all the unique course characteristics for that week's event. You guys probably don't care about this, but it's like taking a peek at who designed the course. So there's a lot of world-renowned golf designers that most of the PGA Tour events, they'll have some known golf designer. This one's going to be Donald Ross, and he's has a kind of specific course design. And that's why a lot of the events that we're looking at for comp course history are former Donald Ross courses. Okay. But then it's also taking a peek at like scoring, potential scoring, greens. The greens are going to be fast, like all that stuff. And so Chris Goddard, top 20 there. The form could be better though. He's kind of lacked the upside since his win. That being said, this does feel like a perfect time for his game to fully come together, coming in off of a top 15 place finish last week. So he, to me, is that play. And then everyone else is much more of a toss-up. And I will say, out of all these golfers, does he not have the least name value to him? Like, I feel like not many people are going to choose him just because, like, who the heck is Chris Goddard? That could be the leverage pick for you guys this week, is going with Chris Goddard. And then again, taking a peek at the next tier, tier number 4, I feel like we are getting a somewhat simple choice here to me. Harris English seems like a very safe pick. That being said, if you're chasing more outright odds, Højgaard has pretty strong odds, 16th best outright odds. That's pretty darn crazy, and actually has one of the higher made cut likelihoods. We're calling that out. I mean, that's pretty darn interesting to me. We also had JJ Spawn there. Let's just actually take a peek at those 3 golfers. I think we can dial it down a little bit more just to those 3 golfers. Kurt Kitayama would somewhat be in play, maybe even potentially Gary Woodland, but to me, it's those 3. English, Spawn, and Højgaard. So yes, between those 3 golfers, Harris English is going to be someone that grades out the best in the 9-to-5 model. Worth calling out, guys. My model takes a focus on both safety and upside, whereas our odds are just, hey, what are the chances that if this guy's playing well, will he win? And so that's where there can be a little bit of a difference there. And so that's where my choice ends up being Harris English. You can basically trust him to make the cut. That being said, if you want to chase upside, Spawn does make sense. He's going to be the 7th best specialist in the field, coming in where his form has gotten better in each start. That's always interesting to call out. Then we also do have Højgaard, who has been playing some pretty good golf, not terrible comp course history. Overall, I get why the data likes him, but I think, again, English is the safest choice, and then I'd probably go Spawn, and then Højgaard. All 3 are going to be decent options for you, though. And then we jump on into tier number 5. I mean, slow clap forever put these official tiers out there because this is basically everyone that's playing good golf, all golfers that are pretty interesting clicks. So you got Harry Hall, Ray Tan, last week's winner, Alex Fitzpatrick, who's arguably the hottest golfer on the PGA Tour, has a win on the PGA Tour, and his prior start to winning on the PGA Tour was a win on the DP Tour, almost won last week as well. He's showing up his brother Matt Fitzpatrick right now. So those three players are definitely interesting. Jacob Bridgman's had a great season, but Keegan Bradley was a former winner at this track. So the BMW Championship took place at this event in 2018, and he won it there. He kind of always tends to play well at courses and events where he has somewhat local ties, which he mentioned that in interviews this week. So he's kind of an interesting click in that regard. I feel like this is a toss-up. Again, Hall is very appealing. Ray Tan's appealing. Alex Fitzpatrick's very appealing. I think you just go safe with Keegan, although Keegan stat fit wise and kind of form wise is a little lackluster. Vegas is liking him the most, and so I'm just kind of trusting Vegas in that regard. Bridgman's fine as well. And again, just pulling up the cheat sheet here so you guys can see it as more of a data standpoint. Again, you could find reasons to play any one of these five. I'm just going to go with Keegan. Feels like the safest choice, but also still could capture some upside. Now, guys, the reason why tier number 5 kind of sucked is because, well, we couldn't choose a lot of them in tier number 6. So tier number 6, though, we are getting some pretty interesting options still. Alex Smalley's been playing some extremely great golf. Matt Carty has also been playing great golf, right? Rio Hesseltune is pretty solid. And you got two bigger name golfers, Nick Taylor and Brian Harman, two golfers that you could certainly see end up having some pretty good weeks. Again, it is more difficult to tell you guys which ones to be on exactly. I like McCarty the most, although Alex Smalley does feel like the safest while also still capturing some upside. And so again, just pulling up here, guys, Alex Smalley to me is kind of the clear choice. He's a very strong staff fit, top 10 in recent form in the field. 10 straight make cuts, a bunch of top 20 finishes recently here. We see 17th, 7th, 3rd, 14th. Very good stuff there from him. At the same time, we do see Matt McCarty has some very strong comp course history, 8th, 19th. And then he's also in some great form, 14th best in the field, 6 straight make cuts for him. So those two are very appealing. And then Hesseltune, kind of fallen off a little bit recently, but having a great season. And then Nick Taylor and Brian Harman, just two golfers you would expect to make the cut at a major, just in general. And just looking at the pricing, I mean, Harman is the highest price from DFS standpoint, but again, I think it's just Alex Smalley. And so to recap, guys, this is what we're going to be looking at for this week. So if I had to choose, I guess I'd go Scotty. Okay, so Scotty will be the tier number 1 pick, and then Patrick Cantlay, and then Chris Gotterup, Harris English, Keegan Bradley, and then Alex Smalley. So gonna keep it simple there for you guys. Now let's go ahead and jump on into the second portion of this video, which is just gonna be me breaking down more of the DFS side of things. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump on into the ownership leverage. This is kind of interesting this week, guys. Okay, so what I don't like is that a lot of the players that I'm on lineup wise, because I'm doing studs and duds, because I think this ends up being kind of the optimal route to go, I think this week ends up being very top heavy in regards to which golfers are going to give us top 10s. Okay, there's a long list of golfers that I love in that regard. Cameron Young, Xander Schauffele, Matt Fitzpatrick, Rory, Scotty. I mean, that's pretty simple right there. Then you could toss in a few other golfers like Obear, Colin Morikawa. That could end up giving us some pretty good results as well. And so when I'm making my lineups, I'm going to be telling the data that I want like at least 2 of those top end golfers, maybe even 3 of them in all of my builds. And so with that, we are going to have to go more studs and duds, which I'm perfectly fine with this week. The pricing is kind of weird in that regard. What I don't like is going to be that a lot of the golfers that I want to be on are somewhat chalky, and we are being somewhat told to not be on them as much. Alex Fitzpatrick, who playing some phenomenal golf. Matt McCarty, also playing some phenomenal golf. Both those golfers over the last 4 starts has like an average finish of 7th, which is insane. Then you also have Ray Tan, obviously last week's winner. His ownership has come down a little bit as the week has progressed, thankfully, because, well, it was just a little bit too high. And then you got Ricky coming in as extreme chalk, which I find very surprising. It is kind of at a price tag where I guess it makes sense, but you look at his price tag there, 7.4 coming in at about 20% ownership. Okay, and let's just look at some potential pivots there. Well, one, Harris English, the data really likes Harris English already, guys, so he ends up being a pretty good click for us there. Keegan ends up being a pretty good pivot, obviously the winner of this event in 2018 of this course, the BMW Championship, in 2018. And then Adam Scott, to me, one of the clear-cut plays on the slate. You got Ming Woo Lee, who has phenomenal outright odds, guys. Vegas loves him to win, and so he almost makes more sense than also Ricky. Okay, but I think Adam Scott, great pivot off of Ricky, gets a little bit more Keegan, Ming Woo Lee Lee, and then potentially even Harris English. Again, those are all pretty good leverage spots. And then from there, guys, let's go ahead and take a peek at which golfers are maybe coming in a little bit undervalued. Now, overall, I don't really see anything too crazy here. I think these players are all, to me, properly owned. Matt Fitzpatrick, I like being overweight on him by a good 5%, probably closer to 20% actually, because if his game is on, like had he not made a start last week, he would be like probably 10% higher owned than he currently is, because that's how good of a play he looked on paper last week, and he was a disappointment. But I kind of took that as him just looking ahead, and so he ends up being a phenomenal play if his game is still there prior to what we saw last week. Okay, Ben Griffin has very good comp course history. I actually love the idea of being overweight on him by double the field at least. He's someone where overall, I think it makes sense why people aren't on him, but I also think there's a spot here where he just goes off and finishes top 10, top 5. Okay, and I want to be overweight on that. Now, if he was properly owned, I probably wouldn't be telling you guys that, but that's just the nature of the game. That's the game within the game, as they say. From there, Colin Morikawa, Xander being a little bit undervalued. I like that, but then everyone else is fine. Harris English, guys, is coming in at 6%. Again, compared to Ricky Fowler, Extreme Chalk. That just show you guys the leverage that we can get there. So overall, I actually am a little, this is what I don't like. I am a little bit overweight on like Harry Hall, Matt McCarty, Alex Fitzpatrick, and I hate that. And like literally some of the weeks that I've had where they haven't been maybe as good as it seemed it could be are because I was overweight on players that the data was telling me not to be overweight on. And so I pray that that is not one of these weeks this week. That'd be brutal. And for what's worth, Scotty coming in at 33% owned. He has to finish top 5. He is coming in as a fade. The data has been spot on when we should be fading Scotty this week. And that's another spot where I am going to be a little bit underweight on him. Just got to a little bit more Rory as a result, and then some of the other players like Cameron Young a little bit more. But I don't necessarily love the fact that we're being told to fade him. And so, guys, I do want to go ahead and show you guys what I'm going to be trying to do lineup-wise here. And I'll just show you guys the grouping that I'm going to be going with here. So I kind of mentioned I want to get to at least one of Scotty, Rory, Cameron Young, Matt Fitzpatrick. Could potentially toss in Rahm into that. I guess I'm okay with it. Like literally all the top plays I want to be on there. Again, it's a very top-heavy week, guys. I can't control that. That's just the week that we have. So this is basically what I'm looking at here. Colin Morikawa potentially as well. I like Hatton. I like Fleetwood as well. All phenomenal clicks. But what I'm going to tell the data is I want at least 2 of those golfers in all of my builds. Okay, that's what I'm telling it to do. But then also we're going to do another group here. We're going to do, I want at least 2 of, and we're going to get into some of those values that I like as well. So Harry Hall, well, whatever, just all the top values that we're looking at, guys. So Matt McCarty, Alex Smalley, all those golfers in there. And we're going to click save. So we're leaving it about 2 spots for it to maneuver and go with whichever maybe plays it wants to get to from there. Could elevate that again a little bit more to 3, and then we're just going to get a lot of unique lineups. I do want to leave it open a little bit. And so we click run here, guys, and we're going to see we're getting some pretty solid builds. So it is doing what I want it to do. Getting to Cameron Young, Xander, Chris Gotterup, Sam Burns, Højgaard, Ray Tan. Pretty strong lineup. And one of the chalkier lineups as well. I'm fine with that. Has a pretty strong chance of making the cut 6 for 6% wise as well, which again is something that we do really like. Now, I will say I do want to get to certain percentages of plays as well. So we could bump up Scotty Scheffler's ownership a little bit, min exposure a little bit more. Rory, again, I want to be a little bit overweight on Rory than compared to Scotty. Bryson, get to him about 10%. I could see him winning. Rahm, get to him about 10%. And then we're looking at Cameron Young, who I do really like, 25% min. Xander, 25% min. Fitzpatrick, I guess because he's lower owned, maybe 20% min. Like we don't need to go as crazy with that. Obear, let's get to about 10%. Colin Morikawa, about 10%. Again, I think this week is very top heavy, so I'm going to ensure that I'm going to get to some top heavy builds. That's the whole point. And then I'll also do that with some of the values that I want to be on. Now, we should do the max global exposure. Let's do that to about, 40%. So we are going to spread out the player pool a decent amount. We're only running 20 lineups right now, guys. So it should work perfectly fine here, and it is. So I don't necessarily love Jon Rahm that much. Let's see. Are we getting too much of him? We're probably getting a little bit too much Højgaard. So we could drop Højgaard down to about 20%, maybe Ray Tan about 20%. But again, the data really likes those plays. So that could be something where maybe we don't need to adjust as much. Same thing here with Nick Taylor. Scotty, again, maybe cap him at 30% just because the data loves him. But again, I want to be gaining some leverage on the field. So that's something we could potentially do there. But then we make the lineups again, and we're sitting a little bit better in regards to what I want to do. Then if we wanted to make 150 lineups, guys, it's going to look a little bit different, but let's just see here. So the top projected lineup then in that regard would be Scotty, Xander, Ricky, Højgaard, Smalley, Hall. I think that makes sense. The top 5 or 6 out of 6%, Young, Xander, Aubert, Scott, Højgaard, Hall. Love that lineup as well. Top projected lineup, Scotty, Young, Kitayama, Højgaard, Raytan, and Hall. Okay, so you guys get the picture there. Some pretty solid lineups that we can be producing. Now, again, what you guys could also do is if you have a strong lineup that you like, you guys can just go ahead and play that. For instance, like I think we can easily go Rory and Scotty this week, guys. So let's say we want to go Alex, Fitzpatrick, Raytan is pretty chalky, so we'll go him, and then we'll go Højgaard as well. Two very chalky options as values. And then we have 5.1 left over. Don't necessarily love that. You know, maybe we could get to someone a little bit cheaper than Raytan. Could go McCarty, Nick Taylor as well, 5.5. That leaves us with like McCarty. And so we're actually sitting pretty darn good there. And then from that like top lineup, you can make some slight adjustments there. So again, just kind of showing you guys that. That was a new tool that I went ahead and added on to the 9to5 lineup builder that I'm excited for you guys to get to. There also is the GPP tiered system that will just, you could do it based off of studs and duds. And that's actually just take a peek. I'll pull this up. So if you just want to make purely studs and duds lineups without even really caring, it will go based off of projected fantasy points, but we can see we're doing 3 studs and then 3 duds, which again, I'm perfectly fine with that approach as well. So it's a little bit less of a user dictated tool and it's just more open. Okay. But then guys, I did want to go and jump on into my outright bets and first round leader bets for this week. So first round leader picks, I'm going with an early AM emphasis. Matt McCarty at 100-1 on Bovada was something I could not pass up on. That number has dropped a little bit, about 85-1, I believe, but still pretty good odds there. You guys can take a peek at all those. Pretty good stuff there. 3-ball bets, we're getting some decent spots. I went with Sanjay M to win his group, Russell Huntley to win his group, and Hesatune to win his group. Outright wise, this was fascinating, guys. So if you guys are familiar with the 9to5 data, each week we have an outright tag. So if a player is listed as an outright, that means they are the prototypical outright winner on the PGA Tour throughout the past several seasons heading into event. And all 5 of them are golfers that I was already going to bet on. Like, this is my betting card. It was insane. I'm like, this has never happened. And so either this is a very good sign or it's an ultimate trap, because literally I didn't look at this prior to like the outright bets that I placed and wanted to be on when I was doing the write-up. And then I was like, oh my goodness, they're all 5 of the golfers I want to be in. But again, this further echoes the week that we have where it is a very top heavy week. So yes, I went with all those golfers. And then I did chase some placement bets, guys. I like Adam Scott, top 20, and Keegan Bradley, top 20. So I did want to mention some top 20 bets, guys. So yeah, we got M. Scott, 2.4-1. I feel like that's a very good number. And then also Keegan Bradley, he's at about 3-1, 3.5-1. I feel like those are pretty good odds for him as well. So I like those ones a decent amount. And then let's go ahead and jump on into some made cut bets. McCarty, Fitzpatrick, Hall, and Brennan, actually. I just kind of like the number that we're getting on Brennan. That was basically it. And so what's interesting is a lot of these golfers, actually, their odds have gotten significantly better. And this really tells you how good of plays they are DFS-wise to make the cut, guys. And so Harry Hall is like a negative number to make the cut per Vegas, which is crazy. Matt McCarty, same thing there. Again, pretty crazy. We typically don't see that. And even Michael Brennan, they're giving a pretty good shot to make the cut. Again, T70 and ties are going to make the cut. So basically, all the PGA professionals are out making the cut, and then a lot of the PGA Tour players are going to end up making the cut. And so that's why I ultimately like a lot of those bets. And then lastly, guys, let's go ahead and jump on into some PGA prop bets, mostly on PrizePicks. So guys, I'm going to be using the 9to5 PrizePicks optimizer for this. And the first bet that's popping up is actually going to be Denny McCarthy to make the cut, which is funny because I'm pretty sure he ended up making a video of someone that only does some like betting content for the 5 major events of the year. And it's all slop. You can tell it's a lot of AI generated content, but has a pretty good following, probably a little bit bot boosted, but it's just kind of funny that this is one of the bets that he had, and it's also popping up as a good bet. I'm not going to tell you who it is. It's just kind of a funny thing. If you guys know who it is, you're probably getting a kick out of it as well. If you guys don't, oh well. But Denny McCarthy, guys, to make the cut, 56% likelihood for that to hit. Overall, I'm okay with it. I don't necessarily love him, but given the fact that the day is telling us to do that, I'm fine with it. Another kind of interesting one is Matt Wallace to get over 3 birdies or better. There are going to be a lot of bogeys, don't get me wrong, and birdies might be tough to come by, but this ends up being a pretty strong bet for it to end up being a push overall. We do see Underdog has it at 3.5. And let's actually take a peek at some of those Underdog lines that we are getting. Where is the biggest prop line difference? Well, it really ends up being on that. And then if you want to bet on some overstrokes, you would want to do that on PrizePicks. If you want to bet on some understrokes, you do that on Underdog. So I don't necessarily have a take on any of these sides. Michael Thorbenson, Gary Woodland, Harry Hall, all to shoot under 70.5. I would be fine with that. Even par though, I do struggle with that a little bit. If you guys are someone that really loves Raytan for DFS, bet on him to shoot under 70.5. Bet on him to shoot even par. I think that ends up being a better route to go. But interestingly enough, guys, we're not really getting a lot of big prop line differences. And if we go ahead and flip this the other way around, where PrizePicks might be a little bit higher, I do think getting to 5 birdies is going to be difficult to do. And so I actually do like the idea of getting to Jordan for his under 4 birdies. I'm not going to mess with Xander, one of the top golfers in the field. Not going to mess with that. I'm not going to mess with this one as well. I think actually the over would end up being a better bet there on Underdog. So if you guys like that bet, that ends up being a better spot to get to. And then worth calling out with Aubert and Xander, their strokes are off. Probably going to shoot 1 under par at least. And so I don't mind those unders. I think those end up being pretty good spots. And that'd be the side of it I would want to get to. And if you're telling me that both of them are going to get 4 birdies, which if you look at it, that's what it's coming out to, I'd be fine with that. Now from there, we see like McNeely. Will he shoot under par? Probably not. So on Underdog, I'd actually like that over. Same thing with like, I would say there's a decent gap between him and Kitayama and Ben Griffin, JJ Spawn. So maybe we stay away from that. So guys, a pretty good bet slip there for you guys. Let's see what we got here. So we have this bet slip here. Jordan, 5 slip bet. 5 slip bet for you guys on PrizePicks. Decent edge there overall. And so that's what we're going to be rolling with for the PGA Championship. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. A lot to cover, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know it's a little bit of a later video. Apologies for that, guys. Been working on a lot of tools, just trying to figure out a good content schedule as well. We're still putting out like NBA prop betting videos and whatnot. And the PGA Championship DFS video, the Monday video, is doing extremely well. And I wanted to get as much out of that video as possible, but I didn't want to leave you guys hanging as well. So show some love on this video, guys. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel. If you guys are watching on your mobile device after you hit the like video, make sure to hype up the video as well. That'll do it. If you guys would like access to any of the tools that you saw throughout this video, make sure to head on over to 9to5sports.com. Get access to all of the tools on the website for a low monthly cost of $10 a month. That's right, $10 a month gives you access to all the tools on the website, guys. Best value out there. Take advantage of that. Thanks for watching. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.